Hi guys, here is Dr. Benadusi, and in this video, I'm teaching you how to learn the cerebral arterial circle. Well, it is a circle made of arteries that they are delivering blood to the cerebrum. That's how it starts. How wonderful. Now, what I need you to do is to draw a circle, and you need to remember that we have two main blood vessels delivering blood to this circle. And the blood vessels are, one is at the base. And guess how this one was named? It's at the base. This is the basilar artery. And then we have another blood vessel that you have the right and left versions now. And those are close to the middle of the circle. And these are our famous internal carotid arteries. And then you have one in the right side and one in the left side. Awesome. Now, the basilar artery is at the base, basilar base. The basilar artery receives blood from two blood vessels that they basically merge to form the basilar artery. And these blood vessels right here, they are the only ones that they go through a vertebra, specifically through the transverse process of the cervical vertebra. And they are conveniently named, guess what? Vertebral. They are the only one going through vertebra. They are the vertebral arteries. Right? And you also have the vertebral veins, but this is a circle, the cerebral arterial circle. So you need to look for the arteries. So you have here the vertebral arteries getting together, and then they form the right and left vertebral arteries get together, and they form the basilar artery at the base. The basilar artery ends by splitting into two blood vessels. And since the basilar artery is at the base, it's very close to the posterior aspect, right? And that's how you do to remember that the basilar artery ends by splitting into the posterior posterior cerebral arteries. So you have one in the left side, left posterior cerebral artery, and you have one in the right side, right posterior cerebral artery. Awesome. The posterior cerebral arteries, they go to the back posteriorly, and they supply blood to your beautiful occipital lobe, which is the lobe here in the back. Very hard to remember, right? Yeah, I know. Now, the posterior cerebral artery communicates with our beautiful and famous internal carotid artery. How do you believe we would name a blood vessel that is communicating the posterior cerebral artery with the famous internal carotid artery? This blood vessel is doing a communication, and it's close to the posterior aspect. So this artery right here was conveniently named posterior communicating artery. And obviously you have one in the right side, the right posterior communicating artery, and you have one in the left side, left posterior communicating artery. And the role is to communicate the posterior cerebral artery with the internal carotid artery. Remember, we are coming up with a circle at the end. Now, the internal carotid artery, as I said in the beginning, it's close to the middle of the circle. And that's how you do to remember that branching out of the internal carotid artery, you have an artery named middle. Cerebral is the cerebral arterial circle. Cerebral artery. And you have one in the right side, and you have another one in the left side. Left middle cerebral artery. Guys, the middle cerebral arteries, they go through the lateral sulcus. The lateral sulcus is the sulcus that separates the temporal lobe from the frontal and parietal lobes. Consequently, if this artery, the middle cerebral artery, is running along the lateral sulcus, the middle cerebral artery is the artery supplying blood to the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, and temporal lobe. Good job. Now, if this was the middle and this was posterior, what do you think we have now? We are going towards the anterior aspect, right? Good job. So now we have right here the internal carotid arteries branching into a blood vessel that is anteriorly, and this blood vessel is conveniently named anterior cerebral artery. It's a cerebral arterial sulcus. So you have the right anterior cerebral artery and you have the left anterior cerebral artery. And the right and left anterior cerebral arteries, they run along the longitudinal fissure, which is the fissure that separates the right and left cerebral hemispheres. And this is the anterior aspect. So the anterior cerebral arteries, they're the ones going anteriorly, and they supply blood to your beautiful frontal lobe. And right here anteriorly, they communicate. Both the right and left anterior cerebral arteries, they communicate. How do you believe this communication was named? This is the anterior communicating artery. And the anterior communicating artery communicates the right and left anterior cerebral arteries. It's a circle of arteries, and they supply blood to the cerebrum. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!